everybody. We're going to get started pretty soon, or actually right now. So thanks all for coming out. It's great to see such a big crowd. This is the first Make Talk Play of 2015, so thanks for all coming. So we got a great presentation for you today, but first we're going to go through a few announcements and just some local news and stuff, so sit tight.
Thank you, John Tuttle. This is my presenter voice. Hello. Hello. I'm Pat. Thanks for coming. Hey guys. This is our first round of Make Talk Play for 2015, as John pointed out. A look back at 2014, because we've made it through half a year. We started in July. We have heard from Elliot Mitchell, Paul Hake of Hit Point Studios, members of the Owl and Raven, and then a bunch of people on the lightning talks that we had in December. You can catch all of these online, find them on our website. But I think that's a pretty good thing. We've had some good times this past year. We are at 50 plus members on meetup.com. That's pretty good, huh? We are finding people coming out of the woodwork and are consistently seeing people come from the eastern part of the state, the other side. As we are going to hear from our presenters that are also from the other side of the state. So this will be a good show. Announcements. This is a part where we say, hey, do you have any announcements? And I'll start it off by saying, potentially I will be looking for an iOS developer this year, or soon. So if you are an iOS developer and you are looking for work, come talk to me. And now I'll say, does anybody else have any announcements? Does anyone else have any announcements? Shut up, Pat. Here's Yenny.
Hi, I'm Yenny Deroche from Boston Festival of Indie Games, and we're going to be looking for a whole bunch of people to help round out our ranks this year. So we're going to be posting a whole bunch of job listings. It's unpaid, but not a ridiculous amount of hours a week. We're trying to limit to about 5, unless you'd like to put in more. So if you have any interest in helping us out, we'll definitely pass on the information when the listings go up, and if you have any questions, feel free to come ask me.
Any other announcements? Elliot.
Hey, I'm Elliot, and I was going to announce a couple of things. How many of you have heard of Global Game Jam? Some, yeah. Global Game Jam's coming up in 2 or 3 weeks, and so I'm not sure if there's a site in Western Mass. I think maybe Hampshire College hosted it last year. I'm not sure, but you should definitely check out Global Game Jam if you can, especially if you want to get out of the grind of your daily job. If it involves making games, it's nice to be able to make something in a weekend and work with other people. And if you're trying to get into the industry, it's a great way to work with other people and have something to show off too, which you have a small couple-day commitment, or you have the option to bring it further and publish it. The other announcement I had was semi-premature, but it's the 27th or the 29th will be the next Boston Unity user group. And I run that out in Boston, even though I live out here. But any of you interested in the Unity game development engine, or artists or finding engineers to help you on your projects, or to find work if you're an engineer or artist, you should come out, check out the meetup. I think it's going to be about a post-mortem on a game called Imagine Me. It's made by a husband and wife couple, Holly and Chris, from Knippy Games, and Chris actually works for Unity Boston. So it's another kind of useful kind of thing to go to if you're interested in game development. Otherwise, I'd just like to congratulate Make Talk Play for their next year. Thanks.
Thank you, Elliot. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to announce? Cool stuff, cool projects?
Hi, I'm Eric Robinson. I'm actually going to be giving the talk this month in a minute or two. But I just wanted to make an announcement. We have this technology. I work for a company called Sonic Bloom, and we have this technology called Choreographer. You'll see it in the talk, but I wanted to pregame a little bit and tell you that we're in developer preview right now. And you'll hear more about what it is, but we're going to be doing signups. We have signups at the webpage, choreographer.com, if you're interested in, after seeing the presentation, which you'll see what it is. We'll see us right now, or after the talk, or come just hit up choreographer.com and there's a little developer preview button to click and do that. So just wanted to make that clear before I get into the talk and then things start to roll. Cool, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. Anybody else? Nobody? Yeah, we got one more. Or maybe two more. Great. Hello?
Hello. How are you? Hi, my name is Nathan Berry. Currently out of college and don't have work, but that's okay. I'm actually looking for a programmer that would be able to port a game out of Game Maker into a different engine. Technically, it's already done, but there's a few features that it needs that I don't know how to program myself. So if you are interested, find me after the whole discussion there, and we'll talk business.
Yes. That's what we like to hear. Anyone else? Okay. We're gonna move on to, what are we moving on to? Oh, right. Hey, the button's not, no, it is working. Crap. Too many. All right. Oh yeah, this is for you, John.
So we took a poll last month about what you all wanted to see at these events, and postmortems and game jams came up on top with workshops close behind. So we're going to try to work on that, get that started up in the next few months. And we had a lot of cool write-ins like demo night, which we've done once so far. We'll do some more. Women in games, panel talks, low-cost tools, Kickstarter, and connecting West-East Massachusetts. So we will definitely try to address these as they come and see if we can generate some more interest in different directions.
I think tonight is a good example of connecting the West and the East. Huh? We're getting along okay, right? Okay. So, oh man, I pushed the button and now my things are all funny. Oh, there we go, fixed it. Oh yeah, so Jesse Craftsfinch, our adorable companion, is not here tonight. He is at home nursing his sick girlfriend, but he has written us a little list. We're going to do local news and regional news in the game industry. Can you guys like do a little drum roll? Thank you. In local news, my company Woodpenny is celebrating our first year. Woo! Thank you. And other local news, Hit Point Studios has just moved down to Springfield, Massachusetts from their current location of Amherst, previous location of Amherst. And that is local news. John, take it away for the regional news. And nationals. Oh yeah.
All right, so this is from Jesse. I'm going to read off the list because I have no idea what's going on, apparently. So Steam Client adds a frame rate counter, which is awesome. Microsoft is ending production and sales of the original Kinect, so get your hands on it now if you want one. And Pat just got a text. Sony got hacked in response to the release of The Interview. The government thinks it was North Korea. The Interview movie was released to streaming services instead of movie theaters, and it is apparently terrible. Sony and Microsoft Game Networks got denial of service attacks over Christmas, and their networks went down. Gamers couldn't play all their brand new games, and some kid even called 911 to report it. The Xbox Live founder has left Microsoft. Microsoft announces Arcadia, a service that will stream games and apps. The new D&D Dungeon Master's Guide was released, and Samsung's Gear virtual reality headset is now available for $200. And that is the national news.
So many things. Yeah. So this is kind of late to the game, but in November, Big Fish Games, for those in the casual game market, was acquired by Churchill Downs, which is a little odd. To me, anyway.
What's Churchill Downs?
Churchill Downs, the Kentucky Derby. The people who are in the, yeah. That's my home state right there. My city. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. So, only a couple more things. We are trying to figure this out. We're going to take a quick poll. Next month, we're talking about doing a game demo night. So it's a time to actually showcase your stuff. So the thing is, it runs on corresponds with Super Bowl Sunday, also on the first Sunday of February. Does anyone care? Does anyone care? And that's fine. Super Bowl Sunday is kind of a fun time. You can like people go to anti-Super Bowl parties. Yeah.
Yeah, because if there's nachos here, then that's...
There probably are nachos here. I don't know. We can make that happen. So raise your hand if you are all for Super Bowl Sunday the 1st. For coming here, sorry, yeah, that's a good thing. For coming here instead of going to a Super Bowl party. Oh, I don't know if that's enough though. All right, well, we'll let you know. So it'll either be the following Sunday if we don't do it on the 1st. And that's next time. As usual, how you can find us, keep informed. So we have a website, and meetup.com, that's the best place to stay informed. Find us there, or Twitter. We do send out some tweets every once in a while, and Facebook and Google+. But now, for our feature presentation, we've got Eric and Justin of Sonic Bloom. They're going to be talking about some awesome audio tools. I'm going to hand the mic over to them before I ramble on about something else. Thanks, guys.
Thank you all. Before I get started, can everyone see the screen behind me? Okay. I feel like probably the worst section of people is right behind the pole, which is, there's the pole anyway, so it should be okay. All right, I'm gonna see if I can override that set of slides with my set of slides. Woo, okay. All right, so we designed this slide deck for a projector that was capable of doing more than 800 by 600. So bear with me with the small text. That says, music that drives your gameplay, bringing music to the foreground, because that's really kind of what the meat of the talk is all about. Excuse me. I had some of those edamame with the chili and lime. So it was real good stuff, but did some funny things in my throat. All right, so let's get in on. Oh, by the way, actually, as an introduction, I'm Eric Robinson. We'll go into me a little bit more. Justin Stanizzi is right there. So if you have any questions about the talk when I'm done and you missed the Q&A and whatever, just feel free to come up and see one of us and chat. Okay, so I'm Eric Robinson. This is a little bit of my background. I went in 2007, joined Gamesville, which is in Waltham, Mass. It's part of Lycos. I'm pretty sure they're still kicking around. I then moved to Tokyo, where I worked at a music game company called Innis, and I was there for 3 years. And I speak Japanese, so if anyone here speaks Japanese and wants to chat, feel free. Then I got kind of sick and tired of the Japanese game industry and decided to come back and started up, I started working at Firehose Games out in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and then through them got to work with Harmonix on some interesting projects. My Twitter handle, by the way, is @EricRobinson. Okay, cool. So after Firehose, I decided to start my own company, and it's called Sonic Bloom. That's our logo. I think it's pretty cool. All right, that's that. Thank you. Moving on. All right, so there's a little bit of an overview of the talk. It's kind of blurry text, but I'll kind of go through it. Really the goal, where we want to be here is this big X, which I hope still comes through as an X, is the untapped emotional potential in games. And we're going to look at that through music. And specifically, the road that we're going to take as we walk through the talk is going to start with cinematic music, because we think that cinema does emotional connection really, really well. And there are some really great examples in movies on how to like drive emotions really deep into the viewer and really elicit emotional responses. We're going to from there take a jump over to game music and take a look at the current status quo of kind of how game music has the overview, how game music is done now. Specifically through that, we're going to be led into what we're calling reactive audio, which is that thing up there on the top right, which is a kind of more specific look at the status quo of game music today. And then we're going to go into this kind of more hypothetical area that we're calling proactive audio. And that's really where the meat of this talk is going to be. So we're going to lead you all through that and then end up at the show how that leads us to the untapped potential and how perhaps we can tap into it. All right, so let's move on into the cinematic music part. I'm going to set the target, set that high bar for ourselves moving into this. This is an orchestra doing the film score for the movie Her. I pulled this image off the web. I take no credit for it. But the reason that we're using this image is to highlight a piece of how music is produced for movies. You can see that they have an orchestra and they're actually watching the movie, or at least the conductor is watching the movie and timing all of the notes and the keys and everything to the moments in the movie. So that implies that the movie is done before, basically, you get a rough cut at least before you start even writing the music. For most movies, there are some movies that flip that, but for the most part, that's the general process. Is you take a nearly completed movie, look at the action and the dialogue and the cuts, and try to bridge those together and get them all pieced together with a consistent piece of music. Silence you can use effectively and all that kind of thing. So the image is this. You get the story kind of informing the music and telling the music, all right, here's where these moments are going to occur. You get these little peaks of emotion throughout the story of the movie, that kind of traditional story arc. And the music is built to match it right in there and be specific, which actually gives the chills response, which can drive goosebumps. This is known as musical frisson. Is anyone familiar with musical frisson? There's a couple people. So that's where you're listening to music, watching movies or certain audio-visual experiences, particularly, where you'll get that like chills down your spine sensation when you're in that you'll look at your skin and you've got goosebumps. Who's experienced that before? Oh, sweet, a good amount of people. Not everyone gets that apparently, but it's something that a lot of people experience, and this is something that we really wanted to see in games. Does anyone have any experience with this in games? Have you experienced this? Oh, sweet. Okay, so there are some people who have done that. That's excellent. I haven't yet myself, which I think is a really big bummer, but that might just be the games that I'm playing versus what you guys are playing. The point is that this really happens when there's a strong emotional link between the audio and the visual. It happens at other times as well, but really that's the most common time, is when you've got that kind of combination between what's happening on screen and what's coming into your ears. All right, so why do we fall short in the games industry? At least there were far fewer hands when it came to games than there were when it came to movies for that kind of musical frisson effect. Well, let's take a look at kind of the content of what the various composers in the two fields get to work with. The movie composers get to work with, I'm going to see if I can move back here, the visual target and an emotional target. So they get a visual target in that they see the movie and they get the audio dialogue for if there's spoken word. And they're told by the director, okay, here I want this to be really suspenseful. Here I want this to be really dramatic, or I want a violin in this sequence here because I like how that feels and I imagine this is how it's going to feel. In games, you don't get that visual to match things up with, because the player is the director. The player can set the controller down and walk away for 10 minutes and then come back in and, all that great planning that you did for that moment is out the window because, now what are you going to do? So, as a part of this, you only get the emotional target. Game composers are frequently told, okay, I need 6 loops, and they need to be, one of them needs to be tense, one of them needs to be kind of calm. We need one piece of audio that's for the death sound effect, so it's like ba 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 bow, and then you need the positive sound effect, like the one-up, kind of good feel sound effect, or what happens when you win, the fanfare for winning. I'm not even going to try that one, but anyway, so we're going to move into kind of how the kind of more of the programming side of how the audio works and the logic and how not specific examples, but more, let's take a look at how audio moves in an actual game. And we're going to call this reactive audio, because really what happens is, in games today, you generally get this situation where the gameplay will inform the music. So you'll have something where the player turns the corner, maybe if you're in Metal Gear Solid, and triggers the enemy to see you, and that cue the intense music, because now suddenly cover's blown and I need to run away or take this guy out quickly, or I'm going to have the entire base to, come at me. Or you make it to the boss level and suddenly, you've got intense boss music. And that's just kind of the flow of this. So really, what you start to look at is that you get these vague emotion changes that occur to match the rough outline of the gameplay as directed by the player. So you have it, that might have been difficult to see if you watch the top graph there, and the lines, the colors are changing. That's just to indicate that the 3 different sections. So you've got like kind of smooth music, and it gets a little more intense, and you've got boss battle perhaps, and it gets kind of really, really deep and pumpy. And to zoom in a little bit, it looks a little bit like this, which again, these are little islands of emotional content, and really only at best give a vague connection between, they kind of indicate to the player, you should maybe be feeling tense right now. And hopefully the game, the state of the game matches up with that state of the music. So there's a lot of audio solutions out there in middleware for this. The two major ones that we keep coming across are Fmod and WS. Again, these are runtime mixing and playback pieces of software. They help you do audio layering, playback control, and you say like, I'm going to cue this in 5 seconds. I want this thing to start. I need a zinger here and whatever, and you get cues. That's, excuse me. Again, that's reactive audio because the game music reacts to what's happening in the gameplay. But we'd like to point out that this is what we're seeing as missed opportunities. These emotional moments in the story of the music itself, which didn't match up to the story of the gameplay necessarily. The specific moments weren't there, right? So the gameplay had a specific set of moments, and you might get little sound effects, or the transitions might be really stark between like sneaky music and suddenly you've been found out music. That transition will feel pretty good because it's that instant will feel like, oh yeah, that was tied on there. But after that, it just goes into like, and you're like, okay, well, I'm running around doing different things, but I still hear the same little jig. So we think that the music itself has its own story structure in it, and it's got its own, crescendos, decrescendos. There's different instrumentation coming in, different voices, and if you talk to any composer, you start to hear these terms thrown around and they have different sections. And it's that kind of story that we want to be able to hook into, that right now, those moments are totally ignored. They have almost no connection to gameplay. So let's take a look at proactive audio, where we're going to attempt to tap into this opportunity and see if we can't get some tight synchronization between some music and the visuals. All right, so again, I was saying before that the music itself might have its own structure, its own story. This is essentially a depiction of, a very simple depiction of an emotional curve, kind of an emotional story arc within the content of a song. And let's take a look and see what happens when we map that to gameplay. So suddenly we're saying, okay, well, how can we get those moments from the music into the gameplay? We can, if we could do this, if we could say, at this moment I want, the player to feel like this. If I want this moment, I want the player to feel like this. Then how are you going to get those messages into the game? How are you going to get those visuals to change along with the changes in what's happening in the music? You can imagine there are these little influencers, and the music system itself is kind of sending messages at the game saying, do something cool. Beat drop, oh my God, make something explode. Really this is kind of what we want. And if we had this, by the way, the fact that these curves look the same is just because I'm lazy and didn't want to have to do 2 curves. The coloring is what's important there, that this color that comes from here and goes down here, I'm going to go back and forth real quick here. You can see, yeah, that line gets thicker, and the color match on the bottom of that highlight matches the color on top. That's kind of what we want to do, is influence and color the gameplay itself, the visuals, to match the emotion and the story of the music, of the gameplay music, or the music that's playing along with the gameplay. And we think this is what's going to get us those chills. That musical frisson. If you have that music driving visuals in the game, potentially driving the aspects of the gameplay, then those moments are really going to be that tight synchronization is going to enable that sensation in players. So we think that this is true interactive music. You know, the other, both FMOD and WWise market themselves as interactive music, but we like to think of them more as, I think, as a misnomer, because of course the interactivity is more like, yeah, I did something that made the music change, and that the change in the music affects me as a listener, but it doesn't affect the gameplay. And that's where we think, okay, well, if we're gonna have music that's interactive with the gameplay itself, you use reactive audio with proactive audio, and you get that together. So let's take a what that looks like, kind of in a loop. We've got, You're a Great, I'm gonna read these just to make sure that you can all, because they're probably blurry, but You're a Great Game, you have the reactive audio system, which leads to the game system, or excuse me, the game music. So it will affect what's playing in the game music. And the game music should inform the proactive audio system, which will then feed back information into your great game. And so that loop there is essentially why we started Choreographer. This piece right here, why we started Sonic Bloom. This piece right here, that proactive audio system, is what we think is going to get us that untapped potential, that untapped emotional potential. There's all these moments in the audio, in the music, that just kind of are left hanging out there, and yeah, they'll affect the player, but they don't feed back into the gameplay. That's something that we find as being unfortunate, and we're trying to figure out a way to fill that hole. So in order to do that, we said, okay, well, let's look at what tools we have for audio synchronization. Justin and I have both worked with harmonics. I worked with another company out in Japan called Guinness Music Game Company. We've both had a little bit of experience with synchronization and synchronizing audio with gameplay and all that other stuff. And nothing really, even there, everything is very proprietary. Everything's for both companies, is very specific to what they do. We wanted something a little bit more generic, and we were trying to figure out how to do this. So we looked at various algorithms to do this automatically, right? Like frequency analysis, beat detection. You know, there's a service out there right now called, Echo Nest. And you can upload a song, and they'll send you back metadata about the song after they process it a whole bunch, and it'll tell you, I think, what key it's in, how many, what the BPM is, what the different sections are. I think they may even give you a tempo map, which is, if the BPM changes beats per minute, it'll tell you that. It'll tell you certain pieces of information. Is it a happy song? Is it a sad song? Based on their best guess. But that's an offline process. You upload it, and you may or may not get any information back. And they have massive teams of PhDs working on that problem. We're like, well, okay, that's not really gonna work for us. And everything else, there's other products out there, particularly on the Unity Asset Store, really quick to find. It's like Visualizer FX is one of them, and a lot of these other things that people have done are the frequency analysis. So you get this automatic thing, like if anyone's played with Winamp, do you remember Winamp back in the day? Yeah, you remember the little bars that move up and down along with the music and tell you it's really bassy, the left side's bumping, and then on the right side it's a really high tinny song. That's done with frequency analysis. It's usually FFTs and a lot of fun stuff to figure out what is a high range or low range, what's moving there, and they'll feed that information to them. Yeah, you can tap into that for some gameplay, but it's not as input into gameplay, but the trick with that is that it's not deterministic. How you process those is very dependent upon environment processing level, what interrupts happen when, and it makes for kind of a messy thing. And you're also not only writing the algorithm to get the frequency data out of it, but you're writing the analysis on top of that and saying okay, when the bass does this and then the mid-range does this, figure out that means something else. So even that when you start playing with that, it starts to feel very mechanical, and you don't get any variation. Whereas we know there's a beat drop there. Come on, there's supposed to be something cool that happens at a beat drop. So to kind of work around all those problems, we said, well, what if we just let the team, the developers, say well, that's a beat drop, and we're going to set that as a beat drop and then send that out as information. So we built Choreographer. And that's what you're doing with the Choreographer, is you're choreographing gameplay, you're choreographing elements of the music, and you're putting signals into the music as though you're a dance choreographer and saying, hey, you should be doing this at this moment. This music is really cool right here, do something really cool. Let's take a little deeper look at what choreography is, or excuse me, choreographer is. First of all, it makes markup super easy as a markup, an audio markup tool in an event system. So basically, I'll go into this a little bit more. You can see these. This is an audio waveform, and these are what we're calling events. It's really hard to see on this blurry screen, but it allows you to stick animation curves and just various types of events with different payloads. You can have text and keys and a bunch of other colors. You can put all that information right into the audio stream, basically. And then you can specify spans of time where you can have a little curve, and it will send out messages adjusted to the curve as the music plays through that area. It allows you to drive animations and gameplay with music through those messages, because any system now in the game, any logic system for programmers out there can say like, oh, I'm just going to register for the the beat drop effect, the beat drop event, or sunrise or wind, and you can just say like, I want the wind to be really intense at this part, and then it dies down a little bit, and that could be really powerful for ambient music. It also provides you with a beat clock. And what that does is allows you to drive other systems based on music time instead of solar time. So instead of having, a bullet move at units per second, you can say, I'm going to have that bullet move at beats per second. So if the music changes, suddenly it will slow down or speed up based on how the music itself slows down or speeds up relative to the previously playing song. There's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do once you get that musical information actually integrated in the game. And so we actually see is, to wrap this whole like what is choreographer piece up, we see it as an emotional amplifier for music, because it's really letting your music composer get his you're getting the most out of your music composer, let's say that. Because they're putting a lot of effort into making this music sound great and having all these different voices. This will allow those voices to reach the gameplay. So this is a bigger image on the slide. I'm going to kind of go through these next few slides really quickly. They look great on a high-res projector, but it's hard to see anything here. That's like a screenshot of the tool, at edit time. This is the waveform area, which if you've seen Audacity or a digital audio workstation, a DAW, then you've seen these. This right here is our current view of what it looks like to be having events. This is our markup, which you can't see them, but there's numbers, text, there's little single triggers, and then you can have, off on the right, the two gray boxes actually have lines in them, so there's little animation curves in there that as the music would play over them, sends out that information like I was saying before. This up here is where you input your tempo information, so if you know the BPM of your song or the different tempo sections, and say it starts at 120 BPM and it speeds up to 180 BPM, you can kind of specify where that break is and have it affect not only the editing time, but also the runtime if you do anything driven based on the beat clock. All right, cool. So let's quickly get back to here to kind of bring it all together. This is again the loop where your game sends a signal and says, oh, hey, music, you should be reactive audio system. The player just reached the boss, play the boss music. And then the music changes to play boss music. And then the proactive audio system says, oh, the boss music's playing, and oh, I just hit this event, start this thing. And it tells the game, hey, this thing happened, do something cool, to any system that cares. So now you're suddenly completing that loop, and you're constantly getting these events from the music itself and getting really interesting information out of that music. Again, this is those three guys, Fmod, WYs, and etc. There's a ton of those. If anyone's a Unity developer, Unity Asset Store has about 20 of those things available. They all specialize in different things. We are here. This is that's supposed to say choreographer. It's really, really dark and mushy. But yeah. All right. So that's that. All right. Let's take a look and see an example of how choreographer can change things. I hope this comes through on the monitor. This is Eric Esmussen's Disco Dodgeball. I think he's 80 steps. Does anyone play Disco Dodgeball or know of Disco Dodgeball? Couple hands up, sweet. All right, cool. So it's a dodgeball game, and it takes place in a disco club. So you're gonna see these little robots rolling around and throwing dodgeballs everywhere. it's a really interesting game. It's kind of like a PG version of Unreal Tournament. So you're not shooting people in the head, but you're throwing little glowing orbs at each other and, you know, blowing up robots and respawning. It's fine. So the point of this, and in this video that I want you to take a look at, is watch the red lights. So he's got lights of the club connected to the music, and this is done using frequency analysis in this version. This is the first video we're doing an A/B comparison. So these bars here you'll see kind of are like those old Winamp meters that I was talking about earlier, and the floor right here is kind of lights up based on what's happening in the music. So I want you to take a look at the video and you know, really listen to the music while you're watching the video. There is a beat drop in this clip, and see how that audio really connects to the visuals in this. Again, the vision for this is you're in a nightclub, the music's bumping, the visuals should be bumping with the music. All right, here we go. All right, cool. So did everyone see the lights move? Yeah, a little bit? Yeah? All right, cool. It's a little bit dark. Feel free to come up and ask me to show you that again on the high-res monitor where it's bright and everything, if you didn't quite see that. Hopefully this next video will be a lot brighter. This is what it looks like. There's no gameplay happening in here because this video was when Eric got choreographer integrated. He finished putting in all of the choreography and then took this video and basically said, holy shit, and it's, oh, sorry about it, we'll swear there, but
You're in a bar, man.
that's fair. Oh, but we're in a bar where apparently kids come and play, like they get all-you-can-eat cereal along with all-you-can-play games, I don't know. Yeah, so all right, cool. So this is the same game. This is actually just the stage playing along with the music. Again, this is on choreography. This is the same system. Instead of doing real-time audio analysis, this is choreography. All right, take a look. Okay, so that was on choreography. Could you see the difference there between the two? Besides the lighter, the brighter lights, the lighter colors. Cool. So yeah, we thought Eric came up to us and was basically like, "Holy crap! This is the vision for the game. This is what I wanted it to be." We were really excited to see that. All right, so let's quickly wrap this thing up. We see that there's a whole huge amount of untapped emotional potential in the game music that all of your games, that all of our games are, as they exist today. We want to tap into this potential with what we're calling proactive audio. Again, this is the audio informing the gameplay. Choreographer, the tool that we built, is a proactive audio tool that is specifically what it aims to be, what it aims to do. As I said before the talk at the announcements, we're doing a developer preview and we're opening that up to everyone that we kind of talk to about it. And we are doing this so that we can get feedback. It's still early days, but we do have people who have used it, they've shipped with it, and we're still interested in kind of nailing the experience. We've got a few extra features that we want to nail and get in there before we start selling it. So if you're interested, come see us or check out choreographer.com, which hopefully that's legible from back there. And yeah, that's about it. Any questions? Yeah. Oh, yeah, here.
Yeah. Is Choreographer Unity specific, or is it going for other game platforms or engines?
Good question. At present, it is Unity specific. Yeah, and I'm sorry. Normally, that's more visible. This is Unity's built-in UI. We built it with the Unity UI tools. We do have plans to take it outside of Unity, but we have no ETA on that, and we're working on the business side to figure out how we're going to best hit it, or not hit it, but make that move. And that's in the works, but we have, again, no ETA. But yeah, for now, it is on Unity, very easy to use, and it's just a simple like Unity asset. It's the same thing you get on the Unity Asset Store. Good question, thank you. Anyone else? Yeah.
Yeah, forgive me if I'm not
sorry.
sure. This might be rambling a little bit. I'm trying to kind of wrap my head around this a little bit.
Yep.
So I can see the effect that Choreographer had on the stage
Yep.
and the change in the scenes in the game.
Yep.
What I believe you're trying to get to is then translate the effect of that to the player themselves, so that the player has a different experience, a different emotional experience with the game. But is that going to affect the gameplay? And if so, is the player going to have to know what these audio cues represent so that they can respond appropriately, so that they have that emotional experience? Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. That is an excellent question, and it's one that we didn't really have time to address in this talk, but I'll try to answer that question right now in here, in this answer. I think the best way to look at that is to say that it depends on the design of the game. You know, Eric's Disco Dodgeball is a multiplayer game where, excuse me, I don't think he has anything to say that the same track is playing for each player. So all of the lighting and everything has zero influence on the game, and that's all being driven by the music. So for him, he could have. So those signals are universal. The signal that says beat drop, turn down the lights, intense, like turn them on at full now. You could totally have that come in and say like make everybody jump now, and just do like a physics kind of impulse, and then everyone will go whoop, at the same time. That's one of the things that we internally are playing with our stuff. We built this specifically because we wanted music-driven gameplay. Right. And that's just what you saw there was mostly music-driven backgrounds, which does have an impact on the emotional kind of connection between those things because they are so eminently synchronized. But you're right that the gameplay side is not affected in that case. But we talked to him and he was saying, well, maybe in single player mode I could have something where, where you have that build up, you could turn the gravity off and have everybody kind of float up at a certain moment. And then on the beat drop, they'll kind of crash down. So there's all these really neat effects that you can play with that do absolutely affect the experience that the player has playing the game. One of the really simple ideas that we like to throw out to people for this question is something like, if you're playing a game like Mario and the music suddenly goes faster, you could have Mario, like during one of those beat drop moments, he starts to run faster. And yes, as a player, if you know that cue, if you know where that's coming, you can kind of time where you're going and where you are in the level to make that. And so now you start to see like, okay, what if I made a game where I let the player change the music intentionally, and that change, like the choreography drives how their weapons move in the game, if this is like a combat game. And then if I do that, then I'll have them pause the music and then switch to the next track, and then they'll go for that for a while, and when they go back to the previous track, they'll start where they left off, so they can like maybe save that location, which is pre-big mega hit, until they get to a boss, and then they have mega hit, mega hit, mega hit, mega hit, after over 4 or 5 tracks because they've done that intentionally, which is a reward for the player who knows the music, who's played it enough. And so you get like all these different ways to conceptualize how music can affect that experience and that emotion. So yes, to I guess all of that, but yeah, right in what we showed there wasn't a connection. We have a demo of a game that we gave at the Bug Talk, where I played it live. It's a spaceship shooter, a 2D side-scrolling spaceship shooter, which is a very early prototype of a game we're actually working on called Rebirth. This is something that we're still working on. We're still doing various music interaction prototypes. But I have that version on here, and if I didn't bring a controller, but I think you can still play it with keyboard and mouse, or keyboard. If anyone's interested in seeing that after, come see me, and I can show you what it looks like. In this game, it's the Unity spaceship shooter, if anyone's ever seen that, which is just like it's a top-down little like Radius or R-Type or 1943 style shooting game. But we've changed it so that all of the weapon firing happens on the beat. Or there's a beat drop. We use techno music in that demo, and there's a beat drop where suddenly like the bullets, they don't fire just every quarter note or eighth note. They fire with the beats, like the drum that's going, and like it just creates a stream of bullets that feels really cool. And there's like camera zoom, and does enemies explode on the beat, and enemies all fire on syncopated notes. It gets all these different things that we threw in like 2 days. So it's pretty neat. So if you want to come check it out after the Q&A session's over, feel free to come see me. I think there was a question here, yeah?
I was just thinking about this. Like, there's no reason that like your power-ups or whatever couldn't be drawn from whatever, but from your synchronization with the music. Like if you throw on the drop or on the beat or whatever, you have other effects. Because these are all just regular Unity events, right? Right. It's like this thing happens now. So this thing happens now. Your power goes up. It goes back down.
Yeah. Again, for that point, it's basically what we do is we just create any of these things here, which we're calling the events. They'll have payloads. You can have no payloads, in which case it would just be a signal that says like trigger. It just says this happened. But if you want more information, like I specifically artistically at this moment want the color of some element to be blue and then purple. You can add that as like kind of data into the curve, and then it gets sent, and it says like, okay, it should be purple now, it should be blue now, we have right now there's support for text. It could be, and so the point is that it's just an event. It's a C# signal that says like, hey, something happened, and here's some extra information that you may need. And from the vantage point of any other system in the game, it's just, oh, okay, cool. So I got some data, I'm going to do something with it. It doesn't have to care about the music at all. All it does is say, I got this thing I should be doing something with. I know I'm this function, so I'm going to be putting it in here and changing the run speed of the character to the payload, like 6. That's what it told me to do. Cool. So, yeah. Anyone else?
I think I have a question in here at least. I'll ramble on for a second. So as a sound designer and composition background, I think it's awesome what you guys are doing. For the most part, like communicating with programmers and development teams, it's really hard to get music into a game or the exact way that you want to, I guess, as a composer. I guess my question would be, are you marketing to composers, or are you marketing to development teams, hoping that they'll work with composers that are doing music? Because it seems like the composition could completely drive the gameplay, or you could keep it in the background as more of like ambient effects that are happening as well. But are the tools robust for, easy enough for simple-minded composers like myself who really like just making music and being like, oh, it'd be awesome if this thing would happen here. I don't know. Take it from me.
All right, yeah. So I think I see there's 2 major questions there. One is, who is this targeted at? And I would say that basically it's development teams. It's kind of a composer slash programmer, because you do need the programmer to integrate it into the various systems. You need someone who's comfortable at least with script enough to say like, oh, I can write this 3-line function that gets the value out of this, this ID or this event, and then sets it to this value on the object. Cool. That really is at the minimum. That's what you need, and we have a few examples in the documentation of kind of how to do that, or we will. In any event, the composer side is more like, well, the composer wrote the damn music. The composer had some vision when they were writing the music. Let's let them get this stuff, kind of realize that vision. And we've got the actual writing of events into the waveform is trivial. It's all mouse driven or keyboard. And the mouse is like, you can just kind of draw. So the tool we envisioned as being a hybrid between a DAW, an audio, kind of like an audio timeline, and GIMP or Photoshop. So it's like you just kind of take the pen tool and like, I'm going to draw one from here to here, and then it draws the data right into the waveform is the idea. And there's all manner of snapping. So if you know the tempo, you can just be like, oh, from this beat to this beat, and it shows the measure boundaries. So if you're a musician and you know what a measure is or a bar, you can kind of line things up that way. We are actually making it even more composer friendly, or we will be. We're in the next several weeks, by the time we ship in beta, we will have the MIDI import feature. So if you're writing things in a DAW, which is a digital audio workstation, for those of you who don't know, it's like Logic Pro and Pro Tools, and yeah, there's a whole slew, there's a whole world of software over there. Most of those things will export into what's known as MIDI files, which is just key on, key off information. It's like a note was hit on the piano and how hard it was hit, and then later that note was released, and that's all MIDI data really is in the end. There's a few extra little messages that get sent, but we're going to essentially take that and make it so you can just import it and then hand pick or filter that information and say like, okay, I want these moments. These are the important moments. Or if you wanted to, you could say like, hey, every single time a keyboard key is hit or a drum is hit, do something. And then you have all of the drum hits right there. So we'll have that for composers. And then on the programmer side, in fact, I said initially that this was for anyone, for development teams, because really we developed this, neither Justin nor I are audio people. We developed this because we would listen to music and say, cool shit should be happening here. And we wanted to be able to say, do the shit here. And we figured that anyone who had that vision, who could say like, oh, that was a really great song that Pat made for us, like, oh, I really want this thing to happen at this moment. Level designer, programmer, QA team, they can go in and just be like, oh, event. And then it'll happen. So, yeah, so basically anyone. Yeah, anyone else? Oh yeah, back there.
Basically thinking, I guess this is kind of a two-pronged question, but through this, are you trying to aim towards, I know video games and music in video games is slowly rising and rising and rising closer and closer to the like $90 billion a year industry that the cinema, like music industry is. Are you trying to aim closer through this to make music and video games closer like like the cinema, so you have the same emotional experience like you're watching a movie like Gravity where there's like no sound, and then like it's a single person through the entire time, but the music and like the silence is what drives the emotional like connection between the viewer. And then second off, as a person coming back from like an audio engineer background, someone trying to get into the industry that way, is there like, I suppose like, I guess it kind of goes back to Pat's question, like where this is more towards development teams, is there like a network that you're trying to work through, or a group of people that you know that might, be reaching out to composers, be reaching out to audio engineers through this to try to create like a community or whatever?
You got all that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I have all that. try to answer them one at a time. Those are both really good questions. Got me really thinking about that second one. What was real quick, the first one again?
The first one is like cinematography.
Yes, yeah. So are we trying to get, excuse me, closer, bring music and games closer to kind of the cinematic feel and, being able to play with that sense of suddenly silence being so important and an emotional driver when there's the lack of that music is very noticeable. Yes, the answer to that question is very much a solid yes. Particularly with ambient sequences and effects. Like the player, you're never going to have full control over that. I mean, there are things you can remove player agency and increase synchronicity. But it's really hard, to make it more absolutely cinematic. I mean, the best example of that is in-game cutscenes, right? But that's okay, great. And you might be able to say that, like, yeah, you've got QuickTime events are are synchronized, but like, okay, sure.
Can I ask one question to that, actually?
Yeah, sure.
Can you switch back and forth between, like, turn wherever off, or, let the music go for a bit, or the game play out a little bit, and then turn it back on?
Yeah, you can. So choreographer, you can turn on and off. You can do layering. You can do sound effects. You can have multiple choreographers at once. You can have, i.e., you could have, like, if you want to do two-player split screen, and you had two, because you were crazy, you had two pieces of music playing, one for the left channel, one for the right channel. You could do one and one, and then have, like, the left channel only feeds to the player one, right channel only feeds to player two, and you switch between. There's so many things you can do. So yes. And you could turn it on, you can turn it off and play with that, how that would change the effect in the game. That might be one of the ways that we're going to be doing A/B comparison in the future for showing off how this works. But again, the concept, we've already been talking with certain studios about kind of the more ambient effects. And one of them in particular we started talking to after showing the disco dodgeball example. That person approached us and said, I have this crazy weather system and these effects, and it's the game itself is supposed to be very cinematic. And I understand, like he told us, he's like, listen, I totally understand that those emotional swells and the crescendos at certain moments, tied with even just the background motions, are extraordinarily powerful. And this would really nail that experience. And we were like, great, that's one of the things we're going for. We don't have a video example. It's so early that we don't have a video example of anything quite like that. We have some other more experimental game videos if you're interested in seeing that. There's a game that's under development right now on the West Coast / Europe called Panoramical. That does some really interesting things, but it's kind of more of a music toy and lets you mix channels, together, and you have layers. This is another one of those situations where there's one choreographer, but it's tracking like 8 different layered audio loops and triggering events with them depending on the volume and everything. So, but yes, the goal there is to bring that game music to the level of cinema music, or as close as possible to it, without driving your music team crazy trying to say, like, okay, we're going to do everything is 1 bar in length. We're going to make a map that shows how all of those little 1 bar or 1 measure length clips can feed together so that the emotion most closely maps to what the player is doing at that given instant, which is just ridiculous. It's like, that would be essentially real-time composing, which is kind of nuts. I mean, you can do it. I think people have come close, but anyway. So question 2 was, is there anyone that we're talking to right now in audio engineering or the composers to build a community around this and see what we can do? We're starting to have those conversations. We haven't had them outright yet, but we are working with some people. The Berklee College of Music, or School of Music, I think it's College of Music. Is Bob still here? Yeah, Bob, was it College of Music or School of Music?
For
Berklee.
Berklee was college.
Yeah, correct. Berklee College of Music. We're going to be talking with they have a video game music club. I think it's the VGMC. It's like their biggest club, biggest, most active club at the school. And we're going to be talking to them hopefully later this month to next month, sometime in there, and hopefully talk to them. We're already, in fact, the game I was talking about before, Rebirth, the demo that I have on my computer is, it uses just music that we bought off of Beatport, but and we don't have the license to, so shh. But we do. We're working with a student who's a person who is currently a student at Berklee College of Music, and finding that it's an interesting kind of problem building that community that you're talking about. That what we're hoping to do is get in early, get in with the students, and say like, look what you're going to be able to do. And then when they get out into the world and they start talking to their audio engineers, they'll be loud and obnoxious and say like, why are we not using this awesome technology that really lets me put all of my, like, everything that I wrote into this song can be realized in the gameplay, right? So we get that kind of thing. So it's very early days, but we're starting to get that conversation rolling. If you have ideas, please come see me, because I would love to chat about that. And if you're an audio engineer, please come see me, because I would love to chat with you. So, all right, anyway, is that it? Any other questions? Yeah, sure.
Keith.
Do you currently have any Playmaker custom actions for it?
Yes. No. I said yes because you are the first person to call out Playmaker, but that's one of the first things that we had planned to do. We don't have them yet, but it is like right next to our. It's right on our current list of to-dos. The idea there being like, oh, by the way, does anyone know what Playmaker is for Unity? Does anyone know what Kismet is for Unreal? A couple people? Yeah, all right. So it's visual scripting. If anyone's ever played with like rendering, like shaders, there's like a shader graph, and you can actually just draw lines between, like X goes to this vector, and its color red goes into here. So anyway, it's like, all right, make player jump. On an event, you can say like, when X button, make player jump. Instead of writing out functions in code and having to do semicolons and brackets and all that noise, you just drag little boxes around and connect them. It's like building blocks, visual logic building blocks. Playmaker is one of those solutions. It's for Unity. And that would be one of the ways we are fully intending on supporting that with as much as we can. And the goal there would be like, you can just give this to someone who's not a programmer, who at least understands the basic concept of an event happens, make something else in the game happen, and just visually connect lines to get that working. In fact, that would probably be the fastest way to get things working without having to like open up a script editor and do all that noise. So yes, so the answer is not right now, but coming soon. Anyone else? All right, I think that is it. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. No, we wrapped up all of our stuff actually beforehand, so give you time. But I will say we're going to be posting this presentation online, so if you guys want to see it again or tell your friends about it and be like, oh, these guys are cool, well, you can see it online, or if you want to read the slides better, you guys can see it online, because online is the way these days. That's it. So yeah. Come talk to us, say hey to everybody else, talk about your games, and then next month, tell us if you want to present your game. And big round of applause as well to these guys. One more time, please. That was fantastic. They drove through this, it was bad weather. You drove through bad weather to get here. That was good, from Boston. And then also big round of applause to the Quarters, again, for providing us with a great space. I think that's it.